never thought I'd be the kind of guy to write something like this, but here I am. I guess I just need to get it all out because it's been eating me alive. I raised a little boy for 6 years thinking he was my son. I changed his diapers, stayed up during teething nights, taught him how to ride a bike, sat next to him during his first school play. He called me daddy. He still does. And I don't know what to do with that. I'm still reeling. It all started with what seemed like an innocent conversation between friends. My buddy and I were having drinks one night, and somehow the topic of kids and genetics came up. He had recently done a DNA test and joked about how he found out his uncle wasn't actually blood related. We laughed about it, but something weird happened inside me. A little voice said, "What if?" I brushed it off. I had no reason to doubt anything. My wife and I had gone through a rough patch about 7 years ago, a break, as we called it. It lasted maybe 2 months. We were fighting a lot, mostly about work stress, money, that kind of thing. She moved out, stayed with her sister in another city, and we promised to take space and reevaluate. When she came back, things were better, calmer. She seemed more grounded, and I had missed her so badly that I didn't want to ruin the fragile peace we had rebuilt by asking too many questions. A few weeks after she returned, she told me she was pregnant. I was shocked, honestly. We had been trying for a while before the break, and nothing had happened. I guess the part of me wondered about the timing, but she explained it so matter-of-factly. Said maybe the stress before was the problem and the time apart allowed her body to relax. I wanted to believe that. So I did. From that moment, I was all in. I painted the nursery, picked out names with her, held her hand during every appointment. When our son was born, I was there. I cut the cord. I cried like a baby myself. He had her eyes, I thought. He had her smile. He had a temper just like I did. I never thought to question a thing until that night at the bar with that stupid joke and the way it stuck in my head for days afterward like a splinter. It became an obsession. I kept looking at my son, at his hair color, his skin tone, his laugh, and wondering, what if? I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, but I couldn't shake it. So one day, while my wife was out running errands, I swabbed his cheek with a DNA kit I'd ordered online. I felt sick doing it, like I was betraying him, but I had to know. Waiting for those results was the longest 2 weeks of my life. Every time I checked the mail, my heart was pounding. I would watch my son sleep and think, what kind of father does this? But when the envelope came, I knew. I knew before I opened it that my life was about to change. And it did. He wasn't mine. Not even close. The report said 0 probability of paternity. I read it 3 times to make sure. I stared at the numbers hoping I was reading them wrong. I wasn't. My hands went numb. My ears rang. I sat there on the kitchen floor for hours, I think. When she came home, I was still holding the paper. She asked what was wrong, and I couldn't even speak. I just handed it to her. At first, she acted confused. Then she got quiet. And then she sat down across from me and said, "I can explain." But she didn't. Not right away. She just stared at the floor like she was trying to figure out where to begin, and I couldn't breathe. This was the woman I had promised my life to, the woman I forgave, trusted, shared everything with, and now I didn't even recognize her. My voice came back, all at once. I started yelling, asking questions I didn't want answers to. Who was it? When did it happen? Did you ever plan to tell me? She just kept crying and saying she was sorry, over and over, like that would fix it, like sorry would erase 6 years of lies. Then she finally admitted it. During our break, she had slept with someone, a guy she met through her sister. It wasn't serious, she said, just a fling. She didn't think anything of it until she found out she was pregnant. But by then, she said, she wanted me back. She wanted our family back, and she was scared. Scared I wouldn't take her back if I knew, scared I'd walk away. So she kept it to herself. And when the baby was born and I stepped into the role so naturally, she told herself it didn't matter, that biology didn't matter, that love was enough. I remember sitting there, looking at her, thinking how easy it had been for her to decide that for me. To lie every day for 6 years, to let me believe this boy was mine. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. And when I looked at my son, because that's still how I thought of him, I felt this horrible mix of love and grief and rage I didn't know what to do with. He didn't ask for any of this. He was just a kid. My kid. But he wasn't. And I didn't know what to do. I still don't know.
For the next few days, I moved through the house like a ghost. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I went to work, but I barely registered anything. I sat in meetings staring through people. My coworkers asked if I was okay, and I'd lie, say it was stress or a migraine or something. But in my head, it was just one sentence repeating over and over again like a cruel loop. He's not my son. I tried not to let it change the way I looked at him, but it did. I hated that. Every time he came running into the room yelling, "Daddy," and jumped into my arms like he always did, I felt it. That crack, that fracture in my chest where something used to feel whole. I would hold him and squeeze him like always, tell him I loved him, tuck him in at night, read him his bedtime stories. But I was starting to feel like I was watching a movie of someone else's life. Like this wasn't mine anymore. Like I had been playing a role and someone just ripped the script out of my hands. I didn't know whether to leave or stay. Some part of me wanted to scream and run and burn the whole thing down. But how do you walk away from a child who knows you as his entire world? A child who has no idea any of this is happening. A child who didn't lie to you, didn't betray you, who just wants to play catch in the yard and draw you goofy little pictures to hang on the fridge. I tried to talk to my wife again. I needed clarity. I needed honesty. For once. I sat her down after our son went to bed and asked her to tell me the whole truth. Not the softened version, not the damage-controlled version. Everything. She looked scared, like she thought I might hit her or scream again. I didn't. I just sat there, calm, dead inside, and waited. She told me she had met him at a bar near her sister's place during one of those first weekends apart. His name was Mike. He was charming, funny, said all the right things. She said they slept together a few times during those 2 months, maybe 4 or 5 times total. They didn't use protection. She didn't think she could get pregnant after all the failed tries with me. Then one day she missed her period, and a week later, she took a test. She never told Mike. She said she knew it was his deep down. She knew the dates didn't line up, but she couldn't bring herself to say it out loud. She said she wanted me back. She came home and saw how ready I was to forgive, how desperate I was to fix things, and she just leaned into it. One lie, then another. The pregnancy test, the appointments, the ultrasounds. I was there for all of it. She let me be. She said she thought maybe it wouldn't matter, that I'd love him so much I'd never ask. And for 6 years, I didn't. She cried while telling me all this. I didn't. I just sat there and felt myself turn to stone. I think the worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the manipulation. The fact that she had watched me build my life around this lie every single day and chose to keep it going. And I think she thought I'd still stay. That because I had already done 6 years, I might as well finish the job. Like it was a prison sentence. I slept on the couch that night, and the night after that. A week passed, then another. I stopped touching her, stopped looking at her. We only talked about logistics, groceries, bills, schedules, but never about us. I didn't have the words. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. and found myself standing in the doorway of my son's room. He was asleep, sprawled across his tiny bed in a tangle of covers, his mouth slightly open, his hair a mess. I watched him for a long time, Remembered the time he had a fever, and I stayed up all night putting cool cloths on his forehead. Remembered how he clung to me on his first day of preschool, and how he made me promise I'd be right there when he was done. I remembered when he fell off his bike and skinned his knee and said through tears, "I'm okay, Daddy," just because I was watching. And I realized something. He didn't stop being my son just because a piece of paper said so. My love for him didn't vanish. My memories didn't change. But something else had. Something between me and my wife. Something that couldn't be undone. I started looking at apartments the next day. Quietly. I didn't tell her. I just needed to know there was an exit. A way out. I spoke to a lawyer too. Not because I wanted custody. I knew the truth there. But I wanted to know my rights. What I could still be in this boy's life. What it would take. My lawyer told me I had no legal standing. That unless I adopted him formally, I was nothing on paper. He wasn't his father. Just a man who raised him. That gutted me more than anything else. One evening when she was out and it was just me and the kid, he came and sat on my lap holding a book. "Read this one," he said. It was Where the Wild Things Are, his favorite. Halfway through, he looked up at me and asked, "Are you sad, Daddy?" I froze. "Why would you ask that?" I said. "You look like you're sad all the time now." I didn't know what to say. So I just held him tighter and said, "I'm okay. I'm just thinking a lot lately." He didn't ask anything else. Just curled into me and fell asleep while I was still reading. That night I decided I couldn't stay in that house. Not with her. Not like this. But I couldn't leave him behind either. I didn't know what kind of role I could play going forward, but I knew I had to find a way to stay in his life, even if not as dad, even if just as someone who would always show up for him. He didn't ask for any of this. He didn't lie. He didn't hurt anyone. He just loved me. And I loved him, even if I hated everything else.
I moved out 3 weeks later. I didn't tell her right away. I just packed slowly, over time, when she wasn't home, one drawer at a time, quietly. I didn't want a scene. I didn't want more screaming, more crying, more of that fake sorrow she wore like makeup. I'd already seen enough tears that didn't change anything. I found a small one-bedroom place about 20 minutes away, close enough to see him often, far enough to breathe. The night before I left, I sat down and wrote him a letter. My son. I didn't call him anything else in that letter because that's what he is to me. I knew he couldn't read well yet, so I planned to read it to him someday, maybe in a year, maybe in 10. I wrote about how much I loved him, how proud I was of him, how none of what was happening was his fault. I told him I would always be there, always, that no matter where I lived, he could call me, visit me, stay with me, that nothing would change between us if I could help it. When I finally told her I was leaving, she tried to play shocked, but it was a weak performance. She already knew. She had to. She asked if it was forever. I told her I didn't know. Maybe, probably. She didn't beg me to stay, just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at her hands. I think she knew the damage was done, that there wasn't a version of the story where we bounced back. I told her I wanted to stay in our son's life. She nodded, said she'd never stop me from seeing him, but I could see the hesitation in her eyes, the wheels turning, the same ones that allowed her to lie for 6 years without flinching. The night I left, I sat with him on the couch and told him I was going to live somewhere else. I didn't say because your mom lied to me or because you're not my real son. None of that. Just said grown-ups sometimes don't get along and need space. He looked confused, hurt. He asked if it was because he broke the lamp the other day. I almost cried right there. I held his face and said, "No, buddy. You didn't do anything wrong. This is just a grown-up thing. But I'm still your dad, and I still love you more than anything. That will never change." He asked if he could visit. I said, "Anytime." He asked if he could call.
I gave him an old phone of mine with just one number saved in it, mine. He hugged me tight that night, said, "Don't forget me, okay?" I told him I couldn't, even if I tried. The first few days in the new apartment were quiet. Dead quiet. No toys on the floor, no cartoons in the background, no little footsteps running to the door when I got home from work. It was a relief, but it also hurt in ways I didn't expect. I'd catch myself buying his favorite cereal at the store before remembering he wasn't with me. I'd hear a laugh outside and think it was him. Then I'd realize I was alone. I saw him every weekend. We'd go to the park, watch movies, play games. He adjusted quickly, at least on the surface. Kids are resilient, but I could see it. The way he hesitated when saying goodbye, the way he looked back one more time before walking away. He still called me Dad, and I let him. I always would. But the tension with her started to grow again. Subtle at first, changing pickup times last minute, forgetting to tell me about school events. Then came the bigger stuff. One day I went to pick him up and she said he was too tired to go. Another weekend she said they had plans. Plans that somehow always fell on the days I was supposed to see him. I knew what was happening. The slow erosion of my place. The quiet retaliation. I tried to stay calm, document everything, keep texts, stay civil. But it started eating at me. The fear that I might lose him entirely, that someday he'd stop calling, stop visiting because she'd poisoned him against me, or because she'd moved on with someone else and rewritten history. I called the lawyer again, asked what I could do. He told me the truth. Almost nothing. I wasn't on the birth certificate. I never adopted him. I had no legal standing. I could file for visitation, but it would be hard. Courts wouldn't see me as his father. That broke me in a whole new way, because I was his father. I was the one who taught him to walk, to swim, to ride a bike. I was the one who stayed up all night when he was sick, who ran to school when he forgot his lunch, who kissed him goodnight every single night for 6 years. And now the law told me I was a stranger. I started spiraling. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I missed him so much it physically hurt. I tried to distract myself. Work, friends, anything, but nothing filled the hole. Then one night he called, out of the blue, said he missed me, said Mom was mad at you all the time and didn't want him to talk about me much. He sounded scared. I told him he did nothing wrong, that I was always here for him. I told him I'd talk to his mom. The next day, I went to her place, calm, focused, told her this couldn't go on, that she didn't get to break everything and then try to take away the only good thing that came from all of it. She pushed back, accused me of trying to play victim, said I chose to leave. I almost lost it, but I didn't. I just told her whatever anger she had towards me, she could throw it all at me, but leave him out of it. He didn't deserve to be in the middle. She didn't answer, just walked away. I went home and cried. I hadn't cried in months, but that night I cried until I couldn't breathe, because I realized something awful. I was slowly becoming a visitor in his life. No matter how much I fought, I didn't have a key anymore, just scheduled slots, just borrowed hours. But I wasn't going to disappear, not like that, not quietly. I made a plan. I'd write him every week, even if he didn't get the letters right away. I'd keep records, memories, stories, photos, a box he could open one day and see, really see who I was, what we had, what I'd tried to protect. He may not be mine by blood, but I was his dad in every way that mattered, and I wouldn't let anyone erase that.
I wish I could tell you that things got better, that with enough time, effort, and patience, it all smoothed out. But that's not what happened. The visits became less frequent. Not because I wanted them to, because she made them hard. Canceled last minute, didn't answer texts. Sometimes I'd show up and he just wasn't home. No warning, just gone. I started keeping everything. Dates, messages, even voicemails.
I thought maybe someday I'd need them in court, but I think deep down I was just trying to hold on to something. Anything. One day, I drove over on a Saturday morning like we agreed. I had tickets to the aquarium. He'd been talking about it for weeks. She opened the door half asleep and said, "Oh, I forgot. He's with my mom this weekend." Just like that. No apology, no explanation, no care in her voice. I stood on her porch with a stupid bag of snacks and his favorite hoodie in my hands, and I didn't say anything. I nodded, turned around, and walked back to my car. I sat there for a long time, maybe an hour. Then I went home and unpacked the bag alone. That night, I sent her a long message. Not angry, just clear. I told her this wasn't about us anymore, that it never should have been. I told her that whether or not she respected me, she should at least respect the bond I had with him, that keeping him from me wasn't protecting him, it was punishing him. And I knew she knew it. She didn't reply. I started seeing him less and less, from every weekend to every other, then once a month. Eventually, it became whenever she allowed it. I kept things as steady as I could, mailed birthday cards, left little gifts at the door, even recorded myself reading stories and sent them to him through email, hoping someday he'd find them. But one day, I realized something that gutted me. I was no longer part of his routine. I wasn't the voice in his ear at night. I wasn't the person he called when he scraped his knee or aced a spelling test. I had become a memory, a character in the background, someone he loved, maybe, but someone not there. That was the hardest part. Not the betrayal, not the lies, not the loneliness, but the slow fade from his life, like a photograph left in the sun, edges curling, colors bleeding away. Years passed. We moved on, or pretended to. She started seeing someone new. He started calling that guy Dad eventually. That's what hurt the most, even if I knew it would happen. I had no right to stop it, but it still felt like someone ripping something out of me. But here's the thing. I never stopped being there. Quietly. On the edges. Supporting from a distance. I kept writing to him, even if I didn't send everything. I showed up for school plays, even if I sat in the back and didn't get a seat at the family table. I kept a box in my closet with photos, drawings, and letters, things from when he was mine, when he ran into my arms like the world disappeared around us. A few months ago, he found me online. He's 15 now, almost as tall as me. His message was simple. "Hi. I'm not sure if this is your number anymore, but I was wondering if we could talk." We met the next week. No lawyers, no drama. Just me and him at a coffee shop. I didn't know what to expect. He didn't ask why I left. He just said, "I missed you. A lot." And I cried. I tried not to, but I did, right there in front of everyone. Because after all the silence, all the distance, he still remembered, still wanted to know me. We've been rebuilding, slowly, carefully. We're not back to where we were. Maybe we never will be. But we talk, we walk, we laugh. Sometimes we sit in silence, and even that means everything to me. I don't share this story for pity. I'm not the victim in everything. I made mistakes. I waited too long to act. I didn't fight hard enough in court. I didn't know how. But I loved that boy more than anything. Still do. Always will. And that love, real love, doesn't need biology. It just needs presence. It needs truth. And even when it was taken from me, I never let go. To those of you who have read this, who have listened, who have supported me in the comments, thank you. Your words carried me on days when I didn't think I could go on, when I doubted myself, when I felt invisible.
Your kindness reminded me I wasn't crazy or weak or wrong for feeling all of this.